help women, save lives, and peacefully end abortion where you live.
I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired.
You were serious about that?
Be inspired to change hearts and minds by joining over 1 million volunteers taking part in the global movement happening in your neighborhood.
She says, pray that I can get through this abortion. And I said, oh, no. So she went ahead and went into the abortion clinic. When she just came out, she told us, I'm not going to get the abortion. We just had a baby saved. So we had a baby saved in Memphis today. Praise the Lord.
This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live. And we are laughing because we're going to have some fun today. We need to explore the topic of are animals and nature in general more important than human beings? That is a very popular and growing trend. And so we will try not to offend everyone and definitely focus on offending someone. And to help me do that is someone who is just offensive all the time, is Mr. Steve Carlin from Madison, Wisconsin. Huge animal lover over here, Steve.
I love animals.
Great. Heather does actually love animals.
I for real love animals.
Wait, we're not talking on buns?
We're not satire.
Next to the carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to eat steaks after this. We need to go do something. We go to barbecue.
You want to know a true fact?
True fact.
I have a
That's
true
like
fact
something my
for you.
kids would say,
Yeah.
like a
false
4-year-old.
fact.
It's like true fact. Okay, go.
Because I am here recording this podcast, I had to reschedule delivery of the half cow that I ordered.
I want to congratulate you on ordering the half cow because it's something a lot of people, myself included, talk about doing and they never do it. And you have done it. Did this require the purchase of an extra freezer?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it did.
That's exciting. I
Yes.
like that. That's just like things are happening around the house when there's an extra freezer. I remember when I shot that buck a couple of years ago, I had to buy an extra freezer. It was like it was so fun just to do it. And, it was like a 350-pound, animal that I killed. And I was very respectful, and we ate all of them.
Was it delicious?
It was great. It was great. A lot of summer sausage. It was very good. Some ground meat, and then we mounted the head.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. And at Christmas time, to show that this is very pro-life, shooting an animal and putting it on your wall is the kids put like garland and stuff on it. It kind of looks like a reindeer. It's a mule deer.
My aunt has 2 of her husband's deer mounted on the living room with Santa Claus hats on every year.
How fun is that, right? All these animal rights people.
I think one year she put a red nose on one of them.
Yeah, like
Very cute.
yeah, Rudolph. So this is
I'm just having a flashback memory to when my oldest son Peter was young, and he said, when I grow up, I'm going to have a lot of deer heads on my wall. And my wife said, well, you have to check with your wife. And he said, maybe I'll be a celibate.
How's this? If she objects, I'll throw her out.
Yeah, if you
That's
sacrifice your deer heads on the wall for a woman, you deserve neither.
great. Okay,
This sounds like Brad Paisley's I'm Gonna Miss You.
I'm gonna miss. Well, I
gonna
do.
miss her.
Let's do some. Not that we haven't already done it. We'll do some like disclaimers. Okay, that it is well known around the office and my family that I am not a huge animal person.
Yes.
Okay, there's some childhood issues there with parents having dogs that I couldn't stand, and so I recognize that flaw. And we don't have pets. I've attempted to have dogs to appease my children. Then we had Mary-Lise got pregnant with Timothy. The dogs were always getting out. We found the dogs a family. That's not code for I put a 9mm in their head.
Good.
Although I thought about it. and so
4 minutes.
So are y'all counting how long it takes for me to do crump? Okay, I was trying to pick up on this the last few days. So it doesn't work So I'm not into the animal rights thing. I don't want to mistreat animals, and it's not like I have a statue of Michael Vick in my house. But although I think the way he was treated was terrible. But the great dual threat. Shame he had to go to prison. But the whole it's just out of control. And now, on a very serious level, and our European 40 Days for Lifers know this all too well, this religious cult that is the environmentalist movement. When maybe it was like a lot of things, it starts off noble, although global warming was a myth. We're actually cooling off, and now we have climate change, which is like the climate changes every day. I don't understand what that means. But it's all, I don't trust any of it. And maybe that's bad. Maybe the meteor's going to come or something, or the gases or the ice age or something. I'll be like, dang, I was an idiot. The world is ending. I'm fine with that. But overall, I think it's total nonsense. But in Europe, it's for real. This is a big problem. In Europe, they're trying to shove it on Latin America. Thankfully, they're rejecting it. In America, I think because of basically the new media of Daily Wire and podcasting and the whole sort of Joe Rogan movement and heck, even the election of Trump, there's a bit of a rejection or skepticism about everything we're doing. The stupid hotels, use the same towel and you'll help save the earth. Now, you can use the same towel, just use the same towel so somebody doesn't have to wash it, which is fine. But the whole you are saving the earth because you know.
One person at a time, Sean.
But don't you think that's really just a clever way of justifying worse service? Hey, I don't really want to pay the cleaning lady to wash these towels, so it's for the environment.
No, I think for sure. But that's from an executive standpoint, it's genius because Marriott can say, what if we can cut all of our cleaning workers by 6% because people are all into this environmental crap? They would save a ton of money. That'd be unbelievable. So I do, I understand it from the greed level, but I don't understand it from the.
You don't want to save water?
No.
Why not?
There's plenty of. I love water.
Yeah.
How are you saving water?
Well, do you pay for water to come into your house?
Yes, and I actually think water is way too cheap. We need it. This is the only thing that I'm like, why is water so cheap?
I wasn't expecting this.
And where I live, we have well water. So our water is unbelievably cheap where I live. And of course, we live in Houston, so there's plenty of water, right? Because all the rain. But it's a neighborhood well, which is great because basically you never lose water during a hurricane. So, but the water is dirt cheap, and so I'm against that. Why is water so cheap? This is essential. I don't understand why water is not. What would you not pay? I mean, you have to have it.
Isn't it just a common good thing that, I'm usually, a lot of the things that people say, there's a universal human right to advanced medical care. I don't think I agree with that. There's a universal right to a job. I don't know if I agree with that because you actually have to do the job. But if there's a universal right to anything beyond life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, wouldn't it be water?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if I'm accused of being anti-nature and all this, I think it's more valuable than most people when it comes to water. I still think it's odd that water is so cheap.
You're not saying that you want, the Acme Water Company to come in and start making a huge profit. You're just saying we get good value from it.
Correct.
Value. Okay.
I'll give you an example.
I thought we were going to the privatize the national parks and name them after Exxon.
Oh, I support that as well. But first they got the ballparks, now they got the national parks. But I support that also. But in our old house, we're in a neighborhood, and there was a mishap, but nobody knew it. So all the neighbors are going ballistic. And our water bill was went from $87 a month to $362 a month. And it was this issue that the water company had, and I ended up refunding and all that. But Mary Lisa and I are like, oh my word, and then I kind of calmed down, and I was like, If they just said this is what it costs, we would just adjust our budget and pay for it. It's like the people that complain about the airline industry. It's like, but you're getting on a plane and going to England. Like, can you imagine 100 years ago or 200 years ago? Like, what are you going to do? Get your own plane? You're going to complain about American Airlines or United? You don't have a plane. What if they just said, we're not taking you? We don't need your $1,000. Like, sometimes stuff, we just take it for granted and we don't realize, like, this is pretty awesome, like the way we live. Like, we just have plenty of water, unless you're in California.
Okay, I'm fully on board with that. I thought you were saying something that you weren't initially.
No. So I don't know how we got off on that. But with that said, we don't have dogs anymore. I'm not pro-animal. Like, I don't, they shouldn't live amongst us.
My family is notoriously anti-dog. Like the family that I grew up in, not my children and my wife, who very much want a dog.
Mary Lisa and I discussed this when we were dating. And it was like, are you a dog person? No. What about you? No. And it's just like, I love you. Let's get married.
My dad has this.
Put a ring on it.
Put a ring on it. She doesn't like dogs. You're the perfect woman. Can you cook?
Oh my gosh.
My father has this bit about how not only does he not want a dog, but he doesn't want other people to have dogs either because they're around and then like the dog like charges at you and then everyone's like, no, it's okay. He just needs to like sniff your hand. And he's like, but then I don't want the dog to sniff my hand. And now he says, I have dog hand.
Dog.
And now I have to like go indoors and wash my hand.
This is your dad?
Yeah.
I like him more.
Wow. Germaphobe.
So, and this is where people need to write in and be like, you and Steve have hearts of stone. There is nothing.
They're not wrong.
I know. There is nothing like a dog giving you affection. And I'm saying all this knowing what's going to happen to me is that I'll be like a lonely old man and I'll have like 4 dogs and I'll eat my words. So I'm self-aware of how dilapidated I am. And the kids they've already created the Hallmark movie where I'm the anti-dog mean dad and I break down on the side of the road and like my leg's injured. I forget. I don't know if I'm in a car accident. Something happens to me and a dog comes and gets the police or the firemen and I'm rescued and the dog's licking my face and I fall in love and I apologize for my heart of stone and I have a dog. So they've created this Hallmark movie that I'm apparently is going to be portrayed in. And so I'm self-aware of all that. But so the listener, the viewer, they're like, I love my dog. These guys are jerks. Okay, great. But we need to move forward with some facts. If you are, and I have dogs come over to my house. I love Dixie, my mother-in-law's little dog, and Dixie loves me. It's a one-sided relationship, and it's funny around the house. She comes, she dotes on me. She thinks I like her, and I don't. I really do. She listens to the podcast. But we'll have family members. Can I bring my dog? And I'm like, yes. I'm not like that guy. But here's the fact. If you have a dog.
Bring your own pet cleaner?
No, people are respectful. I don't have that issue. But my brother-in-law has a dog. And then he was dog sitting for his buddy. So he brought 2 dogs months ago to Thanksgiving, which was fine. I was like, yeah, I don't care. But this is what happens naturally. If there is a dog in the room, the whole conversation will be about that dog. How big do they get? Is he purebred? All that stuff. Oh, and I monitor this sociologically because I'm interested in like conversations. And it's not that I want to sit there and like talk about abortion on Thanksgiving or whatever, but 90% of the conversation will revolve around the dog.
When I was in high school,
So the listener needs to go, what do you want to revolve around you egotistical, self-centered? And that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying this is a thing that happens.
Back as a teenager, my brother was watching the Westminster Dog Show. And my mom came in and was like, why the heck are you spending your whole day watching this? And honest to goodness, my brother, who himself was a teenager as well, believed that if he just waited long enough, they would get to the catching frisbees part of the show.
That's just hysterical.
That's the best thing that dogs do is catch frisbees. I love that.
Did you see Best in Show? Have you seen Best in Show?
No.
I have.
For sure. It's a stupid movie. I know you've seen it. You haven't seen Shawshank Redemption.
I've probably seen all the Hallmark versions of Best in Show.
Best in Show mocks the whole dog thing.
Oh.
What is it? It's mocking what's the championship? I think it's every Thanksgiving, is it?
There is
the dog. I don't know what they do. They jump over a cone.
It's American Gladiator dog version.
Yeah.
Trot around.
Yeah. And then they're like, and here comes Fairy Tale. And you can tell her hair has been brushed, Bob. And so they're mocking that. And it's hysterical. It's called Best in Show. It is a funny movie. Aww. And so we watch that every now and then. But it is out of control. It's very much out of control, is this like worship of nature. And look, if people want to have dogs, it's great. I'll probably end up with a dog again at some point. And I get it. And it's affection. But there is, and Robert has pointed out, like the reason for the hype is the destruction of the family. That a dog can never hurt you. It's only loyal. It only dotes on you and loves you. And the whole people are like, I don't have kids, I got dogs. You know, there's something wrong with that. There really is. The sort of celebration of it. I get like somebody can't have kids or whatever. I'm not saying on a serious level. But there are like, I'm a dog parent, and all that's cute and fine if we don't have a crisis in the real family. And we do.
You're getting ahead of us, Sean.
Sorry, I'm getting wound up. Here's I'm gonna try, because we're gonna get some emails. Okay, so with all of that said, I will give a random fact about me that even my kids are surprised at. I love going to the zoo.
I love zoo, like I love lamp.
Yeah, I love zoo. Do you like the zoo?
No.
Dang, man, you're hardcore.
This is a recurring discussion in the Carlin household.
Oh.
That you don't like the zoo.
Do they have zoos in the frozen rotunda of Madison?
Oh, come on.
Yeah, what are you going to do, go see like a penguin?
Penguins and polar bears.
My issue is like if we travel as a family, like summer vacation, road trip, whatever, like the zoo always works its way into the agenda, and like the zebra is basically the same zebra as we have at my zoo. I don't need to see a different zebra.
I disagree with that, and I'm thought I was anti-animal. So I'm like no. I like it for. I'll go spiritual on you. I like sort of the glory of the glory of God and the power of like the animals. I mean, I don't care about seeing some like little insect or whatever, but you show me lions in real life, zebras, tigers, elephants, giraffes. I love it. I love going to the zoo. You know what? Because that's where the animals belong. Not in your living room. Because they're animals.
So you actually hate animals.
No, I don't. I like going to the
That's
zoo.
the conclusion some people will say.
Well,
the zoo is...
They'll say I don't appreciate nature.
Immoral.
And I do. I'm trying to double your water bill, and I'm trying to go to the zoo. So, you know, you're not going to tell me I don't like nature. I love all the little giraffes. They're great. But they're animals, and they're not welcome in the house. So,
question is, does God think that animals are more valuable than people?
Heather's trying to get us back on point very politely.
And I want to quote scripture.
oh my God. He doesn't. That's the answer. Can we now talk about something else?
The gospel tells us both in Luke and Matthew, consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. All right. That's a great pave
I do
way
love
for us.
birds. Love
You
birds.
do love birds?
Yes.
Why?
Steven.
I don't know. I like the songs that they sing. I like the colors on their feathers. Love them. I have bird feeders at home. My wife thinks I am like an 85-year-old lady.
Oh, so
She's
can
like,
you
you
name
like
all
birds,
them?
you like to garden, and you play
You're
Scrabble.
there's a name for you. There's a bird. Can you like actually point them out and name them or hear them and know what they are? Not
no,
yet.
No, I'm not that good.
That would be a birdie. It's a birdie.
I think
Or a birder.
I've lost some respect
Birder
for you.
is what I think they're called. Birder.
I have bird feeders. I like birds. How do they survive in Wisconsin? It's too cold.
Some of them leave, some of them stay.
6
That's why
weeks in the summer.
My favorite bird is the cardinal because it never leaves us.
That's right.
It stays all
And
winter.
it's even
Really?
pretty. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Cardinals don't do seasons. They just,
That's why you see those pretty pictures of cardinals with the snow in the background.
I've never seen those.
Oh, well, whatever. Okay, well, I once had a conversation on the sidewalk one time.
Yes.
And this was one of those conversations that I will never forget, but it was sad. There was a woman that was going in for an abortion, and she ignored me. her boyfriend came over to talk to me very casually, very like, well, whatever you got to say, let me just hear it. And after about 30 to 45 minutes, I actually had a headache after talking to him. I don't get headaches very often. And I actually had a headache from talking to this guy. And this is one of those situations where the two of you most assuredly would have said, why did you give him more than 2 minutes?
Okay.
For sure. And the answer to that question is, number one, there had actually not been anybody else hardly at all that was going into the facility. So he wasn't distracting me from talking to other people. But number two, I really, really was trying to see if I could get anywhere with this guy. And what I learned, pretty soon into probably halfway through the conversation is this guy is just killing time. That's all he's doing with me. He's literally just killing time.
Like, so he's bored and he wants to talk to somebody?
He is bored and he's just talking to me. So we go through all the things about his girlfriend, fetal development, how abortion is not safe for women, this, and that. I gave him all these examples. I gave him the failed health inspection results of this. Like, don't you care about your girlfriend, even if you don't care about the baby, sort of thing. He actually didn't really care about her. This was more of a one-night stand, and he was like, I'm just here to support her or whatever, she decides. And I'm like, so she walked out there and decided to have the baby, you'd keep the baby. And of course, no, not really is what it turns out. But he started talking to me about how the tree nearby and squirrels actually have more value than people. And I think it was one of those things where I was like, you actually might be serious, or you actually might just be trying to kill time. But the way that he went on, he was like, I would rather be a monk and live in nature by myself and live miles away from civilization. But he was there to support the girl to have an abortion. And really what it was is he didn't want the responsibility. So it was very sad.
But you didn't say, well, you could. You can be a monk.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
maybe.
It's like, I'd rather do this. And when it's something that somebody could actually do, you're like, well, why don't you do that?
Yeah. I was like, do you really though? I mean, do you want to give up, using women? I don't know. Who knows? So there's that. It was sad. I don't know. Have y'all had conversations?
Well, I've told
like
the story before of the guy he came up and he said, why are you protecting babies? You don't care about the chickens. And he said, I've told this before on the podcast where, we made a little deal. I'll show you my pictures of the abortion because we had the pamphlets out there.
Oh, yeah.
And you can show me your pictures of the chickens. So
Yeah.
he shows me the pictures of the chickens. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh, yeah, that's how they defeather them. Cool. And, I did say he doesn't show the end product, which is like a nice rotisserie chicken. Like, I think that's fair to show both sides. But anyways.
There's so many different good recipes for chicken.
And I didn't know, of course, you cut the head off and you get the feathers off and you butcher it up and you put it in the package thing. And like, I just had no issue with the whole thing. I was kind of like, I could crush some fried chicken right now.
Not even mad. That's amazing.
Not even mad. That's amazing. So then I showed him the aborted babies and he screamed at me, took the pamphlets, ripped them up and threw them on the ground. I was like, how dare you show me something like that? And basically he got out of fantasy world where, yeah, we kill chickens because we eat them and that's fine. That's just the natural order. Mm-hmm. This is not the natural order. This is barbaric. And that's why you freaked out and I didn't.
Right.
And, it's just kind of, it's the same with the Coco the monkey guy. When I had the debate at the University of Iowa, it's in Iowa somewhere, and you go through the whole thing, and then there's Q&A, and there was a guy that raised his hand and said, what about Coco the monkey? And I said, I'm not familiar with Coco. I've never met him. And he said he can sign. Guess he can sign. So that's language. Therefore, he's human or we're animals. We're all the same. It doesn't matter. You can't kill animals. This was out of nowhere because we hadn't discussed animal rights in the abortion debate. So I said, that's a good point. And as a Christian, he's like, do you hunt? And at the time I hadn't hunted before, so I said, no. Do you fish? Yes. Do you throw them back? No. We eat them. We ate them growing up. And I said, I do think that animals have their rightful place and they're put here by God and they deserve space right next to the mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And he went ballistic and the debate ended.
Well, there you go. Do you guys...
What are we supposed to do with that?
What are you supposed to do with... No, I'm not
if I
against...
don't do that, you're smart aleck. What was I supposed to say to convince him? We are now
That's a good answer.
I think we put in what to say when. When Coco the monkey is brought up, you've won. You've won the pro-life debate. When you're in animal rights and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing is, okay, so animals are just as important, like this guy saying with the squirrels. Okay, well, if you're, to use crazy pro-life example, then you take the animal lover that says we're all the same as animals, you can't mistreat animals. If I line up 7 golden retrievers and I just start shooting them with a 9mm in the head and they're collapsing, are you going to stop me?
I would stop you.
I would not. Because you might shoot me.
But you know what I mean? Let's say
Because you don't know how to.
Let's say I announced it and I had, I don't know, a Democrat politician saying that I was running this wonderful clinic and you bring your dogs to me and I execute them.
Mm-hmm.
Would that guy stand outside and protest that?
I believe so, yes.
I think that he would. So if we're the same as animals, then wouldn't we do that for the unborn? We do it for the German Shepherds and the lab doodles, whatever, all the poodles and all the dogs. And we also do it for the unborn because we're all the same.
I would like to clarify my previous statement that I would do nothing to stop you. I thought this was would you risk for your life for dogs? But you would for human beings. That's where I was going with that.
Okay, that's good to know.
I'm not in favor of.
What I'm saying is the guy would protest my dog killing clinic and not, a Planned Parenthood. But I don't even know if he would do that because we have these places, the pound.
Yeah.
I've never seen protesters outside of a pound. Have you?
No.
There's
a humane society.
There have been lobbyists and protesters at the Capitol. I've never seen them outside of, but I couldn't actually tell you where the pound is in my community.
But every abortion facility in America is controversial. Mm-hmm. Even if you support it, you're kind of like, there's an abortion clinic near my house or whatever. It's certainly now with 40 days spread, across the country, we're highlighting that controversy. That's a common thing.
Yes.
People drive by and they're like, that's the abortion clinic. The protesters are out there.
Yeah.
It's actually part of just our natural culture war. You never see anybody outside of a pound.
That's true.
So they don't care about the unwanted animals, but we care about the unwanted people.
Well, okay, but you do have the famous Bob Barker on The Price is Right, and now
Dirty Bob Barker,
Drew Carey, now the host,
loose with the
carrying on the have your pets spayed or neutered, help control the pet population. So there's that, and there's also this major, which is actually kind of funny. There's a major movement
he needed
now.
to be neutered.
That's another story. That's another podcast,
is
Sean.
wrong, Bob.
Yeah. Bob was a little handsy with all those ladies. Bob had a lot of lawsuits over the years.
Anyways,
great hair. Great hair.
Don't lose my
if you're
train of
invited to Bob's office, make up an excuse.
I won this tournament with Nick Faldo last year, and I'd like to win it again this year.
Oh my gosh. There's a movement to only adopt rescue animals, not to breed. So there's a big movement. Don't breed your pets anymore. Spay and neuter them because it's not right. And there's too many dogs that are homeless and need help. And there's kill shelters. And so
that's a movement within humanity also.
Yes.
It's the same.
Yes. But I'm saying there's people are actually looked down upon now. If you breed puppies and kittens
and somebody explained this to me, and I wasn't a smart aleck about it, but it's kind of bad when you see somebody kind of selling the dogs outside of their van, like in a Walmart parking lot.
Yes.
Somebody explained that's really bad. And
they'll have a cage full of 15 puppies or something or kittens.
And so is that bad because they're not neutered, they're just breeding the dogs and trying to sell them, and if they don't sell them, what are they doing? Just taking the dogs to the pound?
They'll sell them. They'll sell. People always want to buy puppies. That's the thing, is that dogs run away or whatever, and then people pick them up and they get taken to the pound. Nobody wants to adopt an adult dog. They want to adopt a puppy.
And I did, which I'm now shocking the listener, but when I caved and my little girls wanted a dog and we, and also I was, I travel a lot. So I was like, this is great. They lived outside. They lived in the backyard. And one was like a lab mix Maggie and Molly, and it just didn't work out, so we gave them away to a family. But like I went and I wanted to go to the animal shelter, and I adopted these 2 adult dogs. They were like teenagers, basically. Yeah. And they were horrible, and they got out, and they wreaked havoc, and it was terrible. But I was one of those people because I was like, I don't want a puppy because I don't want to deal with the...
Yeah, training.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, people will usually get like a young trained, puppy that's been weaned, that sort of thing. So they'll still want a young dog, but we need to move on.
I have a theory.
Move on from what? This is the topic.
No, we need to move to the next point.
You brought up Dirty Bob Barker. If he's your advocate for animals?
No, I was using it as an example
Okay.
to show the trends.
I have a theory.
Okay, hurry up.
Which is that this is...
He lived to be like 101. I think he was still hitting on women.
Oh my God.
He's like 100 years old.
I think the whole purpose of this effort to elevate animals and, decrease the value of human beings, make them all the same, is so that because people can look and be like, well, animals are promiscuous. I'm just an animal. Now I can do whatever I want. It's only natural.
That's how they do it on the Discovery Channel. Exactly.
You're upset at me for bringing up, for cracking on Dirty Bob Barker.
I'm not upset with you. I loved it.
Great show. Price is Right. Used to watch it. Then you get older, you're like, is he hitting on all these ladies off camera? And then it all came out that he was.
They're called Barker's Beauties. So.
Yeah, they were. It was creepy. So
it's okay. There's men now, so we're all even.
Let's go back on that because you kind of rushed to judgment, I think, where you're like, oh, let's say we're elevating animals more than humans. A lot of our listeners are like, but I don't do that. Like, I'm pro-life. I listen to y'all's stupid podcast. I participate in 40 Days for Life. I have kids. I love my kids. I'm open to life. But we have a dog, and we love our dog, and he's part of the family. I'm fine with that. I get that.
Yeah.
It's a personal preference. I don't want a dog.
Same.
You do.
We're kind of cracking wise here, but we're not actually anti.
We're not like
anti us having pets.
I am anti-cat. I don't think cats should live amongst us, and neither do they. Because if you die, a cat will run off. But if you die and you're a dog owner, the dog will lay next to you.
Yes.
But a cat will run. I could care less. Cats are evil.
Yes.
Anyways.
All right.
You don't know. Do you have a cat?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was close.
I don't.
Into J.D. Vance territory.
Yeah, that was going to be 50-50 on whether Heather was a cat lady.
I don't want a litter box in the house. There's that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But, okay. I want to go on to the litany of laws that people would not believe exist about nature and animals in our legal system.
This is where you are an animal lover. So this is where this isn't just Steve and Sean and, being mean, but this is actually where this is a real problem.
These are legit laws, everyone. I do need to make the disclaimer before we read just a few of these. We have to note that corporations are considered legal persons, as are some churches and ships. A legal person is an entity that the law recognizes as a holder of rights and duties. Each has a unique set of rights and responsibilities. So, for example, if you have a business and you have to have a business as a person, it is so that someone can be held accountable. So if someone sues a company, the person to be held accountable will be the head of that company, most likely. They won't be personally liable, but there has to be a name of a human held accountable, which is good. But then we get to these laws. So this is fun. So, okay. There's a book called The Rights of Nature, A Legal Revolution That Could Save the World, came out in 2017.
The Rights of Nature.
The Rights of Nature. This has become revered in environmentalist circles. The concept is that, like humans, all living things and ecosystems have the fundamental right to exist and thrive, and that nature's rights, like humans, can be defended in court. So it actually prioritizes, in many of these cases, the needs of the ecosystems and not the needs of humanity. And you think this cannot exist, and it exists, and the first country we have as an example is the United States, which so far has 10 states that recognize nature's legal rights. Now, I'm all for laws that are protecting certain ecosystems,
Right.
environments. These are good things.
Right.
We should not want to pollute our water. We should
Right.
not want to pollute our ecosystem.
Right. And corporations have had a bad history of
Yes.
doing that. So,
Yes.
No,
And we
I
should
agree.
have regulations on
Right.
certain corporations, all of that.
But we should also drill for oil anywhere we can. I would just like to say that as a Texan.
Fracking is awesome.
Fracking
There you
is
go.
great.
All right. So Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is one. In 2010, they signed a law. Natural communities and ecosystems possess inalienable and fundamental rights to exist. Now, I highlight those words because I find that very interesting is they have a right to exist, but children in the womb in Pittsburgh do not. So
Whoa.
we have
Good one.
people on the sidewalk that are there that can attest to that.
Okay, on this right to exist, I have a question about that because I don't really know what that means. So you can't, and I know certain areas of the environment are protected where you can't build an outlet mall here. You have to build it there, or whatever. You have to protect the river. You have to, I get all that because the ecosystems have to, where's the water going to go, right? So, but is there precedent for this, like legally? Was there some Supreme Court decision in 1813 where nature had a right to exist? It just seems nature just exists. Nature has no rights.
Well, I think the point is that we are now making a distinction to show that if some city council passes a law to, do something with segment of forest in their area, that they can't do it if they pass a law that says, no, you can't because this forest has a right to exist. So
And
therefore, they're banning them from...
This is my issue with the snow owl, because going back to my pro-oil statement earlier, but like the snow owl is one of the reasons they can't drill in parts of Alaska. There's a ton of oil. And you're like, hey, but we got to protect that part of Alaska. No, we don't. We can. Nobody's going up there on vacation. It's frozen. But if we go drill, we're going to kill the snow owl, or the snow owl will have to move or whatever. But I think you have to balance that in, if we drill in Alaska, we'll be completely oil independent from the Middle East. What does that do for the world? There has to be there's practical things, and there's good reason not to drill in certain places. But the whole notion that you're protecting a snow owl when you could be energy independent, to me, is wacko. And that's because somebody may be like, that's because you're a conservative Texan and you're the problem. But doesn't that sound insane? Like, this is how we heat our homes, and
Right.
drive our cars, and all of that. And everything that the environmental movement has propped up has failed. Electric cars are horrible for the environment. We got all these batteries now.
There has to be some common sense with
Look at
these.
look at the disastrous forest fires.
Yeah.
Wildfires that were in California, and they didn't have water because of all these environmental red tape and all that stuff. And it's just that. And I look at this because we're part of a big movement. And when you lose common sense as a movement, i.e. the trans movement and parts of the homosexual movement over the years, when you just freak people out like you're a wacko, it dies. And I think the environmentalists have done that. I mean, when Al Gore said this is what's going to happen when George W. Bush is reelected, and they showed the clip of the movie Great Impact where the tidal wave crushes New York City and all that, people just don't believe that. If we vote for Bush, the tidal wave is going to take out Manhattan, and he's dead serious.
Well, the coastal land is still the most expensive land you can buy. If it were imminently threatened, I don't think that would be the case.
Steve's trying to make the case for his house value to go up in Madison because it's in the middle of the country. We're not getting a tidal wave here. It's just cold.
So some of the other states or areas in the country are Orange County, Florida. They recognize in 2020 the rights of rivers and other waterways to exist. Seattle, Washington.
You couldn't dam a river, is what I'm seeing here.
Yes.
It has a right to flow.
Yes. And the next one, here's the irony I found. In Seattle, Washington in 2023, salmon can pass through its dams, but children cannot pass through.
See, this is
The birth canal.
This is what's great. This is Heather's the epitome. This is just pro-life woman 101, which is you're just like, hey, we're going to pass this law to protect the environment, or hey, I think that the culture is too violent. We kill children in the womb. Like, that's the answer to everything. What do you expect? We kill babies. And that's what you're seeing. That's the subtlety of what Heather's doing.
Bald and golden eagle eggs, $100,000 fine if you break one. Second violation is a felony. Still a law in the U.S.
The second violation is a felony.
Yep. So says.
I can understand, like,
our
we
laws.
shouldn't go bust up an eagle egg, but what I don't understand is some of these things that seem very vague, like all living beings have a right to exist. Like, so can I mow my lawn, or am I committing a grass genocide?
If there is a law citing that geographical area,
It doesn't
you
kill the
cannot
grass,
mow your
though.
lawn.
It's like getting a haircut. It doesn't kill the grass.
Okay.
So then we have
Well,
some.
yeah. Some stuff that I can't share on air. I was like, I didn't know that was illegal.
I'm going to move on. Well, there's other countries that have laws like this. So I'm going to name just a few of these: Bolivia, New Zealand, Colombia, India, Brazil, Uganda, Canada, Panama. Many of these common trend is these ecosystems, certain rivers, waterways have a right to exist. In New Zealand, here's one. In 2014, the Te Urera Act, and another act in 2017, which states that the river is a legal person and it has all the rights, powers, duties, and liabilities of a legal person.
What are the duties of the river? And how do you punish the
flow.
river? Like, there's a drought, the river doesn't flow, and now you're going to find
That,
the river.
but that's where it
You
gets
would
scary.
find an individual to be an actual person to represent that river.
But it says the river is a legal person.
River is a legal person.
That has liabilities.
Yes,
Well, if you can dehumanize, then you can humanize.
correct.
So we'll strip it away from the unborn and we'll give it to the river.
Same thing in India in 2017. The river Ganga and river Yamuna are legal persons with all corresponding rights, duties, and liabilities. Brazil, again, Uganda, Canada, and Panama. While many, and this was interesting, while many of these governments, the articles and news outlets that claim that assigning nature legal personhood does not mean a tree would have the same rights as a human being, to answer your question, Steve, in the next breath, the proponents will say, I don't consider the river a thing. I consider it a living being equal to myself.
Woo!
I guess if we're supposed to say Bruce Jenner's a woman, why not? We're just going to say nonsense.
Well,
let's keep it coming.
We have waited too long to say the obvious before everybody yells at me for not liking dogs. This has proven to coincide with abortion in that the unborn and having children is bad for the environment. Crazy Bernie Sanders ran on it and said it. We've had multiple globalists say you need to have less children because it's better for the environment. Well, remember the article where like, this family has sacrificed children to protect the environment.
Prince Harry,
Yes.
former Prince Harry and what's-her-face
Yes.
actress are, doing the world a favor.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And that is the direct impact of us, all jokes aside, that the environmental movement is pro-abortion to its core, and they see having children as a threat to nature.
Carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint. It's just absolutely insane. And one of the many hopes that I have is that I think that they have gotten too crazy as a movement, and the trend has been to question a lot of that. That may not be good, right? I may be wrong. Maybe Al Gore's right. But when I'm getting wiped away in the tidal wave, I'll still be like, I had some good reasons to be skeptical of this. And I had a personal experience because I'm like, yes, we have pollution. You can see it. We need to get rid of it. It's really bad. We're heating up. We're destroying the environment. I was just like, I'll accept it, but I don't care. I'm in an airport, and it's got a glacier in it. I think it was in Alaska, actually. I think it was in Fairbanks. So I'm like, okay, this actually impacts these people. Like if the ice caps melt, right? Alaska's just going to be obliterated. So I go and I look at the picture, and the citation is whatever glacier, April of 20. It has the year. Then I look at the next picture, like the glacier's like gone. I'm like, okay, I can't make fun of this stuff anymore. This is serious. And it's the same year. It's just in September. So the glacier's huge, and I think it's like a decade, right? And I look at the next photo, I'm like, the glacier's almost gone. We are warming up. It's just summer.
Did the glacier come back in the winter then?
Yes, because then I Googled it, and the glacier's fine. But like late April, so right after winter or in the middle, like end of winter in Alaska, and then it kind of melts. It's almost like it's natural.
To melt.
And then rebuild up to its normal size in the winter when the snow comes. And I'm like, what a scam. And the way it was written, I was just like, you actually got me too, you know?
Then you should be down on zoos because there's nothing but environmental propaganda at a zoo.
What does that mean? There's nothing but, there's animals. They're not environmental propaganda.
It's like, here's the habitat, and they don't have any habitat anymore, and people are bad. Maybe it's just my zoo in communist Madison.
There you
Zoos, I think, so I asked a veterinarian who obviously loves animals, what's the deal on zoos? And like morally.
go. Okay. I was like, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, I do have a heart. I'm like, doesn't the lion want to like chase the zebra and eat him? Yeah. You know? And
What'd they say?
they were really honest. They said, because they're super pro animal, they were like environmentalists and all that. So I was asking genuinely, and they were like, zoos are like necessary evils. Like, unless you have them, you can't expose people to the beauty of the nature that then you need money to defend in
Most
Africa.
people can't go to a
you're,
safari.
Yeah, because you're just not going to go to safari and see a giraffe. So, but if you
Videos and
see a
animals,
giraffe.
or videos and pictures aren't good enough.
Exactly. And I thought that was a very pragmatic approach. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with zoos whatsoever.
Well, there are some zoos that are strict, like in Austin, it's a strictly, what do you call it? It's a rescue zoo or something like that. So it's animals that have been injured and wouldn't survive in nature. And that's
But also, it's like they're staying at a Ritz-Carlton. I mean, they have
They're
their
getting
food
fed
brought to
every
them.
day.
Remember Ace Ventura? That fish lives better than they do. He yells at the environmentalist. And it's about Snowflake the dolphin.
Snowflake the dolphin.
Snowflake the dolphin. But so I get like, you know, I don't know. I'm sitting there going, I think this is like a Hilton that these animals are living in, and it's pretty great. And you think the lion's like, I don't know. I mean, I sit around all day. Maybe he wants to go out and hunt, but after a while, he just becomes like a lazy American. He's laying around.
Inside cat.
I don't. Maybe they rotate them too. That would be tough. Like if you go to a zoo for a year, and
Ship them to another zoo?
no, then you go back into the jungle.
Rotate them in and out of
Rotate them in
nature.
and out.
Well, I have a friend who worked at a zoo, and she said they couldn't replace any of the orangutans on Orangutan Island at the zoo because they all had AIDS, so they needed to just wait till they were all gone.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why
This
I'm
is
laughing.
awful. It's so awful.
It's-
Oh my gosh.
Ah! That is the last.
This is in
He's
Wisconsin.
drinking his water after that. What's wrong with you? I
Note to self, don't
really
go to the Wisconsin
did
zoo.
not see that coming, that your friend was the orangutan AIDS specialist at the zoo. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I don't know how we move on from that, but
We don't.
let's look at trends in the nation when it comes to pets and children, if it's possible.
Hold on. I can't let that
You
go.
can't.
All right, with keeping the audience in mind, how did they get AIDS? Is it?
Oh, why?
I don't-
Why
Did
are
they
we
go to
going
the gay
there?
nightclub?
I don't know. I've told
You
you.
brought it up, man.
I know. I told you everything I know.
Okay.
Steve. Okay, good. Don't tell us don't make anything up.
What was the thing? Monkeypox?
Yeah.
Remember that? About
That's probably related.
Surely they have that now.
That's probably related. It's probably the same thing. We're just gonna go with that.
Great.
Okay.
Heather really doesn't want to talk about this anymore.
Oh,
It's
oh
fine.
my gosh. Let's look at the trends. All right. It probably won't surprise you. Realtors are showing, goodness, they're never going to get over this. We might as well just stop the podcast. While the number of children in U.S. households has declined in the last 20 years, pet ownership has risen.
Okay.
Not too terrible a surprise. That's of August of 2024. All of our census are showing households increasing pets while they're decreasing their number of children. Given the increased share of pets in households and the increased time and resources spent on pets, it's no surprise that some home buyers consider their pets as the most important factor when making home buying decisions. I found that to be
How accurate can that be?
Interesting.
I don't really want to defend these people that are buying houses based on their dogs, but are these people that just don't have kids? Because then it would make sense.
well, even if they have kids, sometimes they're thinking that might be great for our children, but that's not going to work out for our dogs. So we need to find a house that works for both.
That's okay though, right?
Well, that falls in line with the dog as part of our family. I don't have a problem with that.
And I'm not saying there's a problem with
But
these
the fact that
things.
that's a big stat.
If it's a big stat, and if that's a good point, is this just they have pets, or is it they have pets and children, but they're really only concerned about, or they're more concerned about the needs of the pets? And that's an interesting thing to make a home buying decision based on that. So, but if they're part of your life, there you go. In some cases, here's something sad. Playgrounds are even being replaced to accommodate for the growing canine demand. This should come as no surprise given the fact that around 2010, the number of households with dogs surpassed the number of households with children
That's sad.
in the U.S. Yeah. So
Did they close the dog parks the same way they closed the playgrounds during COVID?
Probably not. And one of these stats.
they might have. I don't know. That's a good point.
They didn't make the dogs
didn't-
wear masks.
Well,
Yeah.
Although some people
The
were
orangutans
concerned.
of the Apes.
Oh my gosh.
They weren't wearing masks. They weren't wearing anything. Okay, as of 2022, more than 4.8 million pets are insured.
So pet insurance is a huge thing.
What is that to pay for medical costs?
Correct. So if your pet needs a surgery to remove a tumor, which is becoming more common, pets are getting cancers and human diseases now. Instead of having a $4,000 bill, we should put insurance. We should pay for insurance to set
Okay,
aside.
I have to be careful here, but I know multiple vets, but one vet. I was talking to him one time, and super good Catholic dude, has kids, all that stuff, but obviously loves animals and is a vet. And I asked him, I was like, look, I'll never share this ever, even though I'm doing it now. Are like bedside manner is a big deal because these are their pets, and of course he's putting pets down all the time, right? And kind of telling them, and he's got a little system and all that. But I was like, is it, in your opinion, even though you make money off of it, is it a little out of control, like with what people? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I'll have to like subtly tell people, you need to put Fluffy down. Because they're like wanting to like take out loans and just do stuff. And he's like, personally, I mean, I could make a fortune off of this, right? But he's like, there's a level of, I can predict like how long the dog or cat's gonna live after we do all these procedures, and you spend $17,000 on your dog.
Right.
But he was saying, like, as a Catholic, it kind of bothers him with the whole culture war. He's obviously super pro-life, and he's like, these people will do anything for their animals, but they,
Yes.
they're crazy. So it is, so the pet insurance, does that like go on your homeowners? How do you insure a pet?
It's through Obamacare. I don't think it's through Obamacare.
You know who got
There are
dropped from
companies.
Obamacare? Those orangutans with
Orangutans.
AIDS. Obama dropped them off. Like, no, you got AIDS, you're out.
But it's same as health insurance.
I
Pay
do
for a
think
pet insurance company.
so. That was 2022, and it's up 5 million pets are insured from 2018. I think COVID played into that. I think COVID was good for pets. People are lonely.
Yes,
I
lots more
understand that.
people adopted pets during COVID.
I understand that. And I'm the opposite. I am so glad we were done with our dogs by the time COVID hit. That would have been awful. We had Timothy and then COVID hit. We had like a 2-month-old when COVID hit. And if I was dealing with the dogs also during COVID, it's just, here's the other thing, and this is pro animals, is that, and I had this with my own kids, everybody wants the Hallmark card, but animals are work, and it takes sacrifice. And it's like, you may not be able to go on that trip, or you have to run home. You got to let the dogs out, all that stuff, and it's actual work.
Or you have to board them when you have to pay money to board them when you're gone.
Yeah.
If you can't take them with you.
No, and it's just like it's
But
a
more and more
constant
people
thing.
are taking their pets with them, and it's not even like the actual licensed therapy dogs. It's
Oh, they just want to take the dog.
it's like it's a support animal. So you can have I've seen some pretty crazy stuff. Like I've seen the support dogs, and that makes a lot of sense and all that. But then you have like support iguanas and
But on the plane, this goes back to my earlier point. It always happens, and I'm always super nice. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, cute dog. But
gosh.
what happens?
Oh, yeah.
50 conversations about that dog with people boarding. How cute. When did you get him? And
once
all that
again,
kind of stuff.
not
Nobody's
about-
asking the mom who has a 3-year-old in her lap.
But
They're all like, I hope that little punk is quiet on the plane.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then they're all into the little dog in the cage.
They have more,
I had a big dog next to me one
Compassion.
time. I was on the window seat because I'm a control freak and don't like to have to get up for other people. And the guy in the middle seat had a big support dog.
Wow.
And it was like sitting on my foot the whole flight.
Oh, so he didn't have his own seat. He was on the floor in front of the guy next to you.
Correct.
And
That's crowded.
and the dog had AIDS.
But then like you have to put your tray table up when you're landing in case it flies off during the landing process. But that dog is just there on my foot, unsecured.
All right.
Okay.
Here's my airplane dog story.
Heather's enthralled.
I'm flying. I think we lived in Virginia. I'm flying from D.C. to Houston, and I get upgraded to first class, and I'm sitting next to this phenomenal Black Baptist preacher. He's got the cufflinks. He looks amazing. He's probably 75 years old, good shape, all that. He asked me what I did, all this, and we're talking. We're hanging out. It's like, I don't know, 10 in the morning or something. So they come on. The air conditioner below deck has gone out. We have to do an emergency landing in Memphis
Because there's a dog under
there's a dog.
Oh, no.
And the dog would get hot. I don't know if the dog would die. I could care less either way. Like, this is a flight with like people on it. Okay. So we land in Memphis. They got to get the dog off. And we are on we're at the gate. And we're just sitting there waiting for all this. And then they announce it's going to take longer than we thought. You can get off and they gave us a voucher to like eat.
You guys weren't just leaving again. They were waiting for the dog to
Yes.
come back.
And then you got to do, I guess you do these safety checks, I guess, because we landed and we had to, I guess we got to take off again. I don't know if we need a new fuel, but they're now giving us vouchers for the Memphis airport to like eat lunch. Okay. So I'm sitting here with the Baptist preacher and I was like, well, what do you think, Reverend? He goes, Mr. Sean, I know you're a man of faith, and I'm a man of faith as well. But I know 2 things. Number 1, they need to let that damn dog die. Number 2, I will be partaking in a Jack and Coke. I said, Reverend, your secret's safe with me. Don't you worry. I was like, you want me to get you some barbecue? So I went and took our vouchers and got him, it made the whole dog thing worth it just for that conversation. And I love it. Absolutely love it. And you're just sitting here going, I was like late getting, not that all that's, I don't want the dog to die, but isn't there an appropriate risk factor that if you travel with your dog, it may not really work out that well?
Oh, that's awful. I don't think I would take that risk. If there was a risk of
I
that
wouldn't
happening,
either.
I
And
wouldn't take
why
that
can't
risk.
me, as a non-dog person, shame that dog owner and be like, you checked your dog?
Well, here's
What's
our
the matter with
opportunity.
you?
You are shaming everyone now who has ever done that listening to this podcast. So congratulations.
Yeah. You checked your dog and
Yeah.
the dog died.
Yeah.
And you're like, somehow the airline is to blame?
Do you see how they treat those suitcases? Oh my goodness.
I know. I think it's cruel. I
Yes.
would not check a dog. If I
They should be
love
fined.
dogs, which I don't, if I did, I wouldn't check one on an airplane.
The question is, would you put a dog in a stroller?
No, because human beings have dignity. and are made in the image and likeness of God. And when you put a dog in a stroller and you walk around, you have forfeited your dignity.
Okay, I have a story that I found from the Washington Examiner. That's really fun.
Okay.
You said you know this guy. No relation to Timothy Carney?
No, Timothy Carney. I follow him on
relation?
Twitter. I think he's great, but it's just funny because I have a Timothy
You
Carney
have a Timothy.
in preschool.
Spelled the same way and everything.
It is.
All right. So Timothy Carney, a Washington Examiner senior fellow, spoke with a couple in Salt Lake City. The only couple I ran into on the lengthy morning stroll was Isaac and Nicole, and they had no interest in raising children here. Why not? And so they responded, "We can't afford it," she says. And he pressed the couple with on what makes kids so expensive. And so I guess it's the husband, everything Isaac says, healthcare, but honestly, it's just selfishness, he confessed. I joke with Nicole, some people are watching Teletubbies and cleaning up vomit, and we're going to be drinking margaritas in Paris. There's your selfishness point
Which
we've
is
made
so
many
stupid.
times.
You don't go to Paris and drink
Margaritas. I thought that same thing. I was like, wine? Mexico margarita?
Yeah, we're going to go to England and have bourbon.
I would not have. I mean, maybe
So
I'd try it.
consumerist.
I'd have low expectations, but yes.
The consumerist, like all of the reasons for not having kids are consumerism, and it always involves going somewhere and eating something, and it's about as shallow as you get.
Yes.
And I like going places and eating. I'm not going to Paris and having a margarita. That sounds disgusting. But, like, that's... Everything has its proper place, but, like, that's what you're referencing. You're not even giving a serious thing. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't know if I could raise a kid. Like, that's a real thing.
That's a real concern.
Like, it's kind of
almost every parent has.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. Or
But to say...
adult.
To not even have a good food analogy, but to use food at all is so superficial, but you're not even good at it.
But there's hope because he comes up on another neighbor moments later. He greeted the couple and sees a double stroller that they're pushing through the adventures. The avenues. The passengers in the stroller were 2 chihuahuas in a double stroller. I went to a community festival recently, last fall, and I had a dog. I was walking around. I was watching for a friend. And same thing. Everybody, oh my gosh, the dog's so cute. And what kind of dog is that? Da da da. And I saw a stroller with 3 little chihuahuas. Now, I love chihuahuas. I know a lot of people hate them because they're like really yippy.
I thought it
love
was
them.
funny because of the Taco Bell commercials.
Yes, and I had chihuahuas growing up, and we would, make fun of, we would laugh with that and all that stuff. But I just thought, oh my gosh, these dogs. So now our dogs are going to start getting obese because they can't walk anymore because we're pushing them in strollers now. You have a little dog and you're going a far distance and they can't walk that far because it's too much for their little bitty legs. Okay, but how much did you pay for that stroller? That's what I want to know.
Well, and this is why I mentioned that having dogs is a legitimate responsibility. You have to treat them well.
Yes.
Just don't check them on the bottom of an aircraft.
Yes.
And hope for the best. But they require sacrifice.
Yeah.
And to me, obviously, it's way more sacrifice to have a child. But you're willing to sacrifice. You're willing to be discomforted for this, but you think it's dumb for people to have a lot of kids and sacrifice for them or
Right.
any kids. And, quote, the children are bad for the environment, but you can have 3 dogs and sacrifice and do all this and somehow it's good.
Are Isaac and Nicole's dogs going to be allowed to visit them in their empty nursing room in 50 years?
I knew this was coming.
They might. You never know. But what's really sad is so this same
Says the
reporter-
orangutan AIDS guy.
It's never going away. This same reporter talks about schools and gives examples of schools that are turned into community centers for adults and dogs. And there was an example of New Milford, Connecticut. They had to close a school due to declining birth rate, which followed declining enrollment. Several surrounding schools also closed. So they were turning playgrounds into dog parks. Again, I love dogs. I think dog parks are great, but that we're replacing children with dogs and pets is the whole point of this, and I think it's really sad. And
I think it's ironic, and we have to mention it, because you know how Pope Francis says like wacky stuff all the time and no one knows what he's talking about? Or sometimes, I should say. It's happened on occasion. This is where he sometimes he just comes down like hard. And you're like, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the having an abortion's like hiring a hitman? You know, like we wouldn't say that. We wouldn't.
Gender theories like nuclear war.
Yes. He had the faggotry comment. Was that it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're just like, whoa, where'd that come from? He did this with like how shameful it is. He had the stat. Like we spend 1.8 billion or whatever it is on animals, but we won't have children.
Yeah.
Like that's just like laying the hammer down. He has these like little quips that are just like boom. It's like a mic drop. And you know, even he pointed that out. And he got hammered for it because they're like, you're supposed to be the nice environmental pope and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, but they're animals. Like we can't close schools and not have children. And you know, I just wanted to point that out. We'll give a little shout out to him.
Well, some couples and people like Isaac and Nicole are a little bit more nonchalant about this. There was an example I saw recently on social media that was very disturbing. That was much more, yeah, this is me, and I'm in your face about it. And she posted, she's got like several 100,000 followers. She posted a video that said, as most of you know, I had an aborboar earlier this year. So it's
that's not a typo.
Name.
You didn't have a copy paste
Nope.
error in the notes here.
Cutesy name for abortion. I had an aborboar earlier this year. You want to know the real reason? I already have a baby, this baby, and she points to her little dog on the couch behind her. And she says, he cost me a lot of time and energy. Sacrifice. There you go, Sean. Wow. If I have to choose between a human baby's needs and this one, I'm choosing this one every time. Don't make me choose between a human baby and this one because he's going to win every time.
Pointing to the dog.
Pointing to the dog. Very, very out there. No guessing. No just, oh, we prefer pets than over children. Like pets are better than children and my dog is more important than the human being that's growing in my womb. Like very, very sad.
Do you believe this is reflective? Because I don't believe anything on social media anymore. I think it's all fake for engagement.
You're saying this lady gives the dog people, like this is like we can't say having dogs is bad because of this lunatic.
Well,
when I hear the word influencer, I'm just
yeah.
forget about it.
Yeah.
Not listening anymore. I don't believe it.
I'm that way when it comes to AIDS-infected orangutans.
To each his own.
But think
I
about
tend to check out when that comes up.
you're not influenced by her because you have a certain moral threshold that it's not going to be influenced by something crazy like this. But think about how many there's hundreds of thousands of followers.
No,
There are
I think
people,
this is good. This is good for the pro-life movement.
Okay, but this has
Everybody thinks that lady's nuts.
I would like to think everybody thinks that.
Oh, they do. I have.
There's too many people that don't, though, is what I'm saying.
Who?
Like, even though that's not the majority of people, you've got a lot of think about how Gen Z is. They're more radical on both ends. They're more conservative than their parents and their grandparents, and they're also more progressive because there's less people in the middle. And there's all these people that are moving more to the extreme progressive left that are seeing things like this and seeing, I don't like a crying child in public is the worst thing ever. Why would I want that responsibility?
But this is a sad lady. She couldn't even bring herself to say the word abortion. So she's ashamed of what she did.
I guess. I hope.
She's abortion.
I hope she is.
I think you don't escape that. I mean, we know, right?
Yeah.
You don't escape that. It may be different levels. It may hit you at a different time, but publicly saying that you're glad you had an abortion and you don't have a baby and that you do have your dog, that's not a long life plan, I don't think, for having peace of mind. I think eventually you're just like, actually, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
So I do think I'm not worried about kids being like, hey, I want to be like her. I'm going to have a dog and not a baby. I think that we're losing dog owners for normal people, where you have kids and the dog brings joy and it's fun and definitely great for security. Mm-hmm. Well, the best. Mm-hmm. Any cop will tell you an alarm is number 2. Mm-hmm. Number 1's a dog. Mm-hmm. And it could be a little dog, but it's just the barking. And so, you have the dog and it makes your family happy, and then whatever, it kind of gets cancer or whatever it gets, and you put it down and you mourn, and then maybe you get another one in a year or two. That's like the normal thing.
That's the normal thing. Then there's this morning story from Julianne Hough. And I'm just reporting the news, y'all. No judgment here. I'm just reporting the news.
You're not going to get any. We've already publicly
I'm
stated
thinking
our
of
stance.
I'm thinking of our listeners now. I'm just reporting the news, okay? There was a report recently where Julianne Hough, who's on Dancing with the Stars,
Okay.
very famous
I didn't know
model
who
and
that was. Okay.
other things, she shared details about her dog's funeral. She felt their souls so clearly. Now, this was from September of 2024 that she was doing this interview. Her dogs died 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Family flew in for the funeral.
Wow.
She said, I blacked out completely when she found out that they were dead. Her 2 dogs died. And anybody who knew me, knew that they were my kids and went everywhere. I went everywhere, went with them, is how she worded it, which was weird. And I thought to
How the
myself,
dogs died? Do we know?
yes. So
AIDS.
on her property,
They were
No.
in an airplane.
the report was on her property they were killed like by coyotes or something. So her dogs were killed. She's crying.
I've never been more proud of coyotes in all my
Oh
life.
my gosh, terrible. But she's like talking about going on the way to the funeral, like
What about
she
the
had
coyote- the
she
coyotes
had
have to
the
eat.
dogs' bodies with her, and she held on to them for several days so that she could mourn. She had them with her and said as she was like in the car, she could feel their soul. I'm an animal lover. I dressed my dog, I might show a picture, maybe I'll send it to Jill. I dressed my dogs up when I was a kid. I had fun. I
Yeah.
loved my dogs. I carried them with me when I could. This is
Creeping you out?
she's 5 years later, this is her grandmother she grew up with.
The dogs had to stink to high heaven.
Yes.
They're dead 2 or 3 days and she's walking around.
I just was very wow when I read this.
Did they
So-
interview the coyotes?
No, not that I know of. Sean, one of them was
What was
Wiley.
the side? What was the side dish with the little dog?
The poor dogs.
Pretty terrifying death, actually, getting attacked by coyotes.
Oh.
Okay.
Y'all people are going to be wondering about PETA, and one of y'all need to read this.
All right, I'll do. I want to hear Steve read this paragraph.
Steve.
Well, I already crumpled up my.
Okay, here. Okay.
PETA does not have a position on the abortion issue because our focus as an organization is the alleviation of the suffering inflicted on non-human animals. There are people on both sides of the abortion issue in the animal rights movement, just as there are people on both sides of the animal rights issues in the pro-life movement. And just as the pro-life movement has no official position on animal rights, neither does the animal rights movement have an official position on abortion.
And this was quoted directly from their website. I was very surprised when I pulled this.
They take a non-position on abortion.
That's their official stance.
That they had to do this is a win for us, I think.
Absolutely. I just crack up at they got lawyers in a room and they wrote this. I have been in media interviews and the opposite position is a PETA rep.
Yeah.
That's happened to me a couple times where they're like, and we will have a pro-abortion expert on. And it's some PETA person.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I didn't kill a dog. They're talking about killing babies.
Yeah.
Why is PETA on here?
Nor did you abort on a dog.
And they can't help it. She asked me if I fished or something. I'm just like, this is hilarious. Wait, you can't get over it. You can't get over these animals. To actually talk about, abortion or anything else.
Oh, all right.
Okay. Any closing thoughts?
I love animals. That's my closing.
I do too. I'll just say that as a generic. I love everyone.
Okay.
I love everyone.
Love is
I
love.
believe in all beliefs.
I think I've said too much already.
I think you have.
Look, we have discussed AIDS on the podcast before, but in no world did the way you said orangutan and then AIDS, and that was just really
I got your
greatest.
your Ted Cruz voice.
The great. The Constitution. The greatest moment in the history of this podcast is you referencing your friend,
Orangutan Island.
the orangutan island. So, okay, please give us your feedback. I think you're going to. Anyways, share some of your stories of maybe you've witnessed some of the pullback, where we're not as crazy as we think and loving animals more than the unborn. But please rate, review, share this podcast, leave your comments, positive and negative, on the YouTube channel. And please know that Steve and I do have a heart, and we do love animals. I think this came out. No, we don't. I'm lying. No, we really do love all animals. So please leave your comments. Or email us at podcast@40daysforlife.com. Podcast@40daysforlife.com. And as the perverted Bob Barker used to say, have your pets neutered. That's how he closed his show. We'll see you next time.
Oh my God.